Well, I want to thank you both for taking time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man.
Of course.
I was a big fan of last year's table read of Plan 9 from Outer Space, and I was very excited to see that you were doing another one, and was just sort of curious, like, how did your approach to this film differ from Plan 9 from Outer Space?
Or did it?
Or did it? As I like to say in these situations, this is neither the time nor the place. Well, I'll let Janet elucidate, but they came to us and said that we really enjoyed it, and we did too. I mean, Janet, how many times have we done Plan 9? A dozen.
Oh God,
probably.
yeah. It's been a
And
lot.
It's the thing about it is it's great every time. There is something truly magical about that movie, script, idea, endeavor. And when we first had the idea of doing another read, we thought, oh, great, we'll just get another bad movie and go. And not as easy as it sounds, because there's a certain thing about Plan 9, and I actually read, I think I have it. I did, yeah. I have a woman named Catherine Coldiron wrote a monograph about it. And what she says, and it was so great, was the thing that makes Plan 9 great is, yes, it's a bad movie. It thinks it's doing great. Yeah. And it goes, it's, again, these are all Catherine Coldiron's quotes. It's like, it's not so much a movie as a filmed record of an attempt to make a movie. It's like a pee-wee soccer game. It's not really a soccer game.
And if you go expecting to see a real soccer game, you're going to be disappointed. But if you go expecting to watch the Pee Wee soccer game, you're going to love it.
Exactly. And so Janet and I, we actually had a really hard time finding a script that did what Plan 9 did. And finally, we stumbled upon I Married a Monster from Outer Space, which what I found very appealing about it was it is wonky in a lot of ways that Plan 9 is, and in a lot of other ways as well. There's it's underneath the whole thing. It is a very, and then I'll shut up. It is a very dyed-in-the-wool Cold War analogy of communist infiltration of the United States. Your friends are not who they say they are, even though they look exactly like your friends. That's very tried in the world. But underneath it, in a script written by a man, is these women in a blind panic to not be married, and men in a blind panic to be married. I mean, it is psychopathic. And I will let Janet take over. But then I thought, oh, this is beautiful because it's bad in a totally different way. And again, they think they've nailed it. And so that's what I'll let Janet take over.
No. I mean, everything Dana's saying is so spot on. And it's funny because there were so many other movies that we looked at, and many of them didn't have quite the same conceit as this person's body has been taken over by something from outer space, right? Which, when you boil that down on its surface, you're like, oh, so the same movie. Like, there's elements of that it's interesting that it ended up making so much sense to do this one, because it does feel like part of this theme of what we've done. The only other thing that we did, that Dana did a wonderful adaptation of, was The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. Less so with the person from outer space, but still issues with oxygen.
From inner space.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I got so excited about,
Yeah.
and what
And
Dana has
it
written
was
is
people
so
from another
funny.
world,
It
the
was,
70s.
and it made as much sense.
Yeah.
So
I was asked to give a quote. A friend of mine they did a really brilliant thing where they took all of the airport movies and
oh,
edited them into one movie.
I gotta see
And
that.
it's quite brilliant.
I bet.
Josh Olson did it, and they asked me for a quote, and the only thing I could come up with was the 1970s. They meant it at the time.
Oh God, I gotta see that.
It's great. It's great.
But this is neither the time nor the place.
Yeah.
I have to ask, did you like intentionally want to do another movie which had From Outer Space in the title?
No, that's what we're saying. Is like,
Yeah.
it's just kind of crazy that, you know, that it ended up being something that is totally the weird cousin of
Yeah.
Plan 9. And and so when you sort of think about it in those broad terms, it feels like, oh, I get it. So you guys do movies about this. And that's just not the case. It's just a matter of how much it made sense. I think
Yeah.
anybody who has seen Plan 9 once or more than once when we've done it will absolutely see the threads that we're sort of pulling from that in terms
Yeah.
of some of the casting will feel kind of like interesting. Is this a similar or the same couple in some kind of weird,
Oh yeah, that's right. It is the
neo-modern,
same guy. I never even thought
postmodern
about
way?
that. Yeah, I never even
Yeah.
thought about that.
And so you still have those conventions that Dana is so amazing at, you know, circling, highlighting, and then shitting on of those
Like
kind
everything.
of weird, those weird conventions and weird sexist. I mean, not so weird,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
to many young people now, weird, which is great.
it's
Playing with that.
truly bananas. The sexism and the and as you know, I write stage directions, and that helps kind of move the evening along and keep it comedically consistent. And one of the things that I came up with was the movie was written by a guy named Louis Vuittet, who, based on the dialogue, his claim to fame was he never met anyone. Because it is. I was like Ed Wood. It's one of those rare instances where you go, first draft, not gonna touch it. But we, because Janet and I have been in this doing this for a while now, I always have feelers out. Like if you see a movie that you think is on the par with Plan 9 and it has to have the earnestness that Plan 9 has, and this movie also has that. It can't be like a sarcastic crapo movie that knows it's crap. Yeah. There's no joy in that.
Right.
And yesterday, so all of these people are on the lookout, and just yesterday, Frank Conniff from Mystery Science Theater called me up and was like, Grizzly 2. You have to, I think that's the one. Shot in 94, released in 2020. Take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Detour is another one I keep thinking about.
I Married a Monster from Outer Space is like half a domestic drama, half Invaders picture. And like the thing that's crazy about it is that the domestic drama is played incredibly straight in the film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that like where the humor lies in like the whole Douglas Sirk weepy aspect of things?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And as I say, like these women, Helen and Marge, they are so desperate to get married, they will marry a guy who's got more red flags than the gift shop at the Chinese embassy, and they just don't care. They are all in. And the Douglas Sirk element of it nails it. It really nails it.
Well, and also what I find really funny about this is like, in addition to it being another film that you're adapting that has From Outer Space, at the TCM Classic Film Festival this year, E.T. is playing. Right. So like it's this very synchronistic thing I find really appealing.
Yeah. Are you going to? Oh no, you're not going to be there. You're not going to be. You're going to be out of town for E.T.
So does having the usual cast of actors and performers make pulling this off easier? Like you alluded to some like casting that's very parallel with Plan 9.
Yeah, I mean, well, usual casting is relative just because we have such a large stable of amazing friends
Yeah.
who are so funny. So we've seen Plan 9 with a bunch of different casts. We've really switched up some of those key roles many times, and it always works. As Dana said, everyone brings a take to a role that we either didn't see coming and so it's brilliant, or we did see coming and that's
Right.
why we asked them to do it and it's brilliant, but they're always so different one from the other. So the hardest part about ever doing this is trying to figure out how many people we can smush onto the stage, because we want to give as much, as many people something to do as possible, yet also keep it sort of tight and doable.
Yeah.
So, we have an amazing cast for this show. That doesn't mean that we don't wish we had 20 other roles or 20
Right.
other, a huge stage and reasons to bring all these other folks in. So, but yeah, I mean, there certainly are mostly people who've done some version of a show like this with us before, and I'm really excited for people like Charlene de Guzman, who hasn't done it before but is so brilliant
Right.
and funny, and I'm so excited to share a stage with her.
Yeah, and it's great. Like when we start to look at it, I will say like, okay, that's Janet, and I know that Janet will hit it every time. And then I go like, all right, I'll give that to Keckner. I don't know what Keckner is going to do, but I know it's going to be stellar. And then there's people like with Plan 9 was a great example of like Jonah. I thought I knew what Jonah was going to do, and he brought something completely different that was great. And so it's exciting for me because writing is a blueprint, but the acting is the building, and you really like you get to see it like, oh, and like it with Charlene and Baron Vaughn, who's in the cast, and Lorraine Newman. I'm still excited to be in a show with Lorraine Newman. I just think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So last year's was notably a streaming performance, whereas this year's is live and on stage. And I know like in the past,
I caught my dog giving a streaming performance in the living room this morning. And that's why he's in the garage today. And I'm not joking.
So like in the past year, you've both had like two like online projects that have done really well. Like Dana, you've had Hanging with Dr. Z, and Janet, you've had Avatar Braving the Elements.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to like what maybe you've learned from this online content, having done it for a while, that might apply to things that you do in the future, like possible table reads.
That's a good question. I mean, we're so in the, yeah, it's funny because, you're talking about things that we've gotten so used to doing over the past couple of years that feels pat in a way. And so you caught us before we're doing a live show, and I'm so excited to do the live version that I'm like, oh, streaming. Yeah, I mean, which, because that's become, some, like just doing, so many friends of ours, Dana included, like getting into a writer's room instead of sitting on a writer's Zoom feels so fresh and new again. And doing live improv, which I've had the chance to do, and doing cons and panels, and having that in-person energy for anybody who vibes off of that, it feels so important. So I'm excited for the kind of ephemeral quality of doing this particular show live. But that being said, we also immediately talked about like, okay, well, it's not going to be a streaming show. It's going to be live. It's going to live in the moment. But what, Dana's worked on is so funny. We obviously want to share it with the most people possible. So I think the conversation of how do we do it more, or how do we stream it, or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think this will be I don't think this will be a one-off. I think that this will work its way into the rotation. And the other thing about like with Janet's Avatar series and Dr. Z is the reason I've known Janet for a long time, and I love working with her so much, is we both we and all of our friends on the show, we just like doing stuff. Nobody gets into streaming like, I'm gonna make a fortune. It's like I just said to Janet last night in an email, why are we doing this? The money, meant to be a joke. We it's for the love of the game. We both just really love doing this stuff and care about doing this stuff, and that's why I think people respond to it. I think because you can sense that. I mean, this is all in good fun. I mean, we're making fun of the movie, but it's all very good natured. And Avatar, which is it's like an emotionally and psychologically aspirational. My daughter has an Avatar poster in her room. Now replaced by now surrounded by Tom Holland, but that's a different item. And with Dr. Z too, we very intentionally, and Janet was there on the first episode when we were working this out. Thank God it was Janet, where we realized like that snark didn't work for him, that it was just Jerry Lewis. It was just, Sammy Davis Jr. It was just positive and silly and stupid. And I think especially for, the time in which it came out, that's really important. Like, this is all of this stuff is just pure stupid fun.
Well, and that's the thing that, we definitely don't have the rule of stay straight sitting on the chair behind the scene that's happening on stage.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited to get back to also, because with streaming, I think we did hold to the standard of like, first of all, you're probably not going to be on screen at all unless you're in the scene. So you don't see us muted cackling to ourselves, like, in wherever we're filming. But on stage, we embrace, like, Dana and I, if we're not in the scene that's up in front of us, we will just be like poking each other's ribs and cackling with tears streaming down our faces on stage. We're not concerned with, I need to stay in character. Like, and I think that's something that the audience enjoys, is like, we're showing how gleeful we are about playing with our friends and being surprised by them in the moment and laughing, and that's part of the show as well,
It's like Match Game if they were sober.
I can't even, that's not something I can imagine.
Hard to imagine, I know.
Elaborate.
There's one thing that I wanted to say that's very interesting that I'm looking at my computer screen. Two things are going on at the same time in my life right now. I'm planning my wedding and I'm planning this show. So there's all sorts of stuff about the wedding, and then a lot of stuff that's just, I married a monster. I married a like,
oh, I think that is absolutely perfect. I think we're out of time, and that's a wonderful way to end. I want to thank you, Dana,
which I'm not. She is. She's marrying the monster.
Wait a minute. I'm not even married yet. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. I'm not married. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
You're like Marge.
Oh, Dana, Janet, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today. This has been
Nick, thank you.
Delightful. A real pleasure.
It's great to see you again. I have those same shelves, by the way.
They're so cheap.
They're great.
So
they're great.
But again, thank you both, and have a good rest of your day.